So hi everyone, welcome to another indie author interview. I am joined by C.A. Blooming, who is the author of Threads of Fate. So thank you so much for taking time to meet with me today. I'm so excited.
I'm very excited. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So let's just get right into it. So tell me a little bit about when you decided you wanted to be an author and what your path to publication was.
Yeah, it's actually funny. I didn't realize it until this morning. We're doing this interview exactly a year from the day that I decided to write Threads of Fate.
Oh, wow.
Um, yeah, so it was July 27th of 2023. I literally just sat down and started writing. Prior to last July, I had not thought about writing. I was strictly a reader. I was strictly read books, absorb as many books as I possibly can. But in May of last year, I got a job working in office, and I've been an almost problematic daydreamer my entire life. And as I was reading a bunch last year and I had like a 30-minute commute twice a day, I just started imagining this world. And it became to the point that I was like, I think I need to write this down. And it was very much a get it out of my brain situation. And then I started writing, and then it just blossomed. And so prior to that, I had not thought of being an author, but it was like the moment I started, I can't think of doing anything else at this point. It's like something that was just inside of me that was just kind of waiting for the right moment, is kind of how I wait. And then I started, finished the book in 3.5 weeks. And then, yeah, I started writing, and then I looked at my calendar and I said, I have 3.5 weeks until my next school semester starts. I need to finish this book. And my husband's like, you're insane. I was like, I'm going to do it. And I originally was going to do traditional publishing, but there was something inside of me that had this feeling of this summer, like summer 2024, early spring 2024. And I was just like, there's no way that traditional publishing I can do the timeline that I'm wanting. And towards the end of last year, I got the crazy idea to publish on my 30th birthday. And so then that shifted to I'm going to self publish this book. And in the beginning of January, a very wonderful follower tagged me in LJ Andrews' indie author scholarship post and was like, you should apply. And I did. And my sister applied, and my husband, I mean, not like nominated me, I nominated myself. And then my husband and father nominated me, and I got it. I was one of three
Oh,
recipients. And so it very much just felt like the universe, everything clicked into place, which really helped being able to fund self-publishing journey. That scholarship literally changed my life. If you open up the back of my acknowledgments, I acknowledge LJ Andrews for her scholarship because it is definitely life-changing. And at this point, I think indie publishing is kind of where I'm at. It's kind of where I think I want to stick. I like the control. I like the flexibility I have with my stories and publishing, and it's been a wild ride. It's probably not a similar publishing ride like journey that a lot of people have had because I didn't think I'd ever write a book, and here I am a year later with book two well underway. So
wow, that's awesome. That's kind of crazy that you wrote this in 3.5 weeks. Like,
yeah,
well, that I like messaged you, I was like, I could not put this book down. Like, it was just I just couldn't. And it was just amazing. And so when you were writing this in that time span, like, did you have time to like plot, or did you kind of just, what did you do?
so I have a secret weapon. My husband is trained in script and text analysis and script development. So as I wrote, I have my little, oh, I don't have it next to me. I have a notebook when, before I started writing, and I'm doing this with another book I'm now writing, I wrote down the characters I wanted, I wrote down their names, and I had to figure out who each person was, and then what I wanted each person to have out of the story. So I think I'm probably like the middle of like a pantser and a plotter. The big thing for me is knowing the people I'm writing about, knowing who each person is. Like I said, secret for my books, every name, like city, character, everything has a meaning. And so I'm big on name meanings. It's big with my kids. And so everyone, their name fits a meaning of who they are. So I spent probably about a day. That was prior to writing when I was like, okay, I'm gonna just write this down. I wrote out the characters, I figured out the names I wanted, and then that's when I was like, okay, I'm gonna sit and write this down. But with my husband, um, I'd write a chapter and then I would go to him. And then I'd write a chapter and then I'd go to him. He's not a very fast reader, so we had to do it this situation where I read the chapter or I explained what happened in the chapter. And so he helped me a lot with the writing process because I'm developing it as I go. And then sometimes I have to go back, like what I wrote a year ago is not what everyone's reading now. There were about 4 chapters where Aura had an entire life in France. There was like a love interest. There was a whole thing that got cut. It was gone and
Mhm.
it doesn't exist anymore. I had to completely rewrite the beginning because my husband and I, as we were going through the plot of the book, he was like, this isn't strong enough. Like, you need to up the beginning of the book. So I cut out about 4 chapters and I wrote it in July, did a lot of revising. And then from August to September, I rewrote the entire thing, changed the point of view, changed the beginning. Um, and so what I wrote a year ago is just the beginning. I would say the first 5 chapters is not the same as what I had originally started with.
Wow. I really love that process. I think that that's so special that you do have that. You
Mm-hmm.
know, you're able to kind of share that also with your husband too. It's kind of like, you know, he kind of gets the behind the scenes like as it's going and he's able to give you that feedback, which is really cool. So did you use an editor still or
Yes. So he's not trained in like editing. And so he's trained, his training is like, what does X, Y, and Z need to happen for the structure of the book for to get like people to feel a certain way or to like get a certain reaction or to have a book end a certain way, you need to start it a certain way. So he helped me with that. And then I have my editor, I have a proofreader, and I've gone through like the alpha and beta reading stages as well. So he helped me with kind of the development structure of the book. But there's just like so many or other people that have to come in and help me edit it and make sure it is, clean. Because when you're writing, you just don't think about things. The number of like typos I've found that are just so funny. Because when you're just pounding away and you go back and read it, and you're like, what was that? What was I saying? So yeah, doesn't help with editing, he helps with the developmental side.
awesome, awesome. And so what do you enjoy most about writing fantasy? What makes you just really want to keep writing that? Because you're on book 2.
Yeah, I like the concept. Creating a world has just been so fun. I've always been a fantasy reader. I mean, my my mom read Harry Potter to me. I can think all of my favorite books as a kid had a fantasy element to it. And I like the concept of just creating this world. What are the rules? What are the laws? What is the magic system? What does each individual, area or in my book region look like? And um, it's fun creating it. It's just fun creating the visualization of this fun world that I would love to go visit. I've obviously this book is about someone from our world who visits a fantasy world, and those are like my favorite genre. I mean, I love Harry Potter's kind of that sense, right? Harry comes from like the Muggle world, and then you've got Outlander, you've got Chronicles of Narnia, you've got oh my brain just my favorite movie growing up was like TV show was The Tenth Kingdom. I don't know if you know what that is. It's about a woman who lives in New York and she goes through a mirror into like think like Snow White Cinderella land. And it was I think like a Lifetime Hallmark thing, uh miniseries, and that was the best show I've ever seen had ever seen in my life. And so I love the concept of taking someone from our world and visiting this fun world. And so for fantasy, creating that magical world, I love it. It's so much fun. And I'm plotting another book with another world right now, and I'm in that. What does each continent look like, and what's the name of it, and what is it? What are the people like who live there? And it's one of my favorite parts is creating the worlds of each fantasy book and series.
I think that's also a challenge too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it sounds like, you have a lot of different places of inspiration that you kind of come from. But having that whole world and like knowing the magic systems and knowing all that stuff and like remembering it like throughout like your series, like do you have like I know some people have like a Bible for like their world. Do you have that or is it all just up here?
I have a notebook,
Okay.
and so I need to start writing it down for my other book. But for example, for my World and Threads of Fate, which is called Comus, I have each region name. I have who the governing god or goddess is of that region, what their magic is. And so I have kind of the basics of it. And then as I've been building it more, I write down little notes. So like in Threads of Fate, you're in Noct the majority of the time, which is Rome's region, which is the governing, not the governing, the region of night. And as I've written out what Noct looks like in my little notebook, I add those notes like landmarks, and this is the landscape, and this is what the city looks like, as so I can track it. I do need to get something better than this little notebook I've carried around with me for a year, like a little, like you said, Bible or something that I just go through and reference. But I do have my notebook, and I'm regularly, as I was writing book two, I had it open and I was looking, okay, what name did I pick for this region? And I'm going back and looking through it.
How, and you say the names all mean something. So what does Noct mean? Does it mean night in a different
Mhm.
language? Or?
So for the regions, I looked up words in different languages. And so like teed, and I will probably realistically butcher a lot of them. I would love to really say them all beautifully and perfectly, but teed, which is the little region for the fates, that's a time. I found a an article from, I think it was like Harvard, that broke down, it was like it, and it was very much going off of seasons and times of days and specific words, which was just perfect for me. And so it was this really cool article that said, okay, for night, here's how you say it in like a bunch of different ways. Here's the origin of the word. And so it was this great little resource I have bookmarked in my on my computer, that every region it means something. So like mood roast, probably butchered it, but that's wisdom, which is like or knowledge. I can't remember if it's wisdom or knowledge, but the region of wisdom, the word means wisdom. Shadis, I think it was meant like, which is the death region. I think like the underworld. That was darkness. I think. I don't think it was death, because there were some that I just couldn't find the right word, and so kind of had to. Aired, which is the city of kings, means earth. And so it was very fun. I got to just take different words, different meanings, and just create this little world. So they all mean something. I didn't make up any of them. I props to authors who can just make up. I couldn't do it. I was sitting here trying to figure out how to name each region, and I'm like, I'm going to take this route because I'm not that creative.
But that's super cool. That's really, really
Mhm.
cool. And what do you need in your writing space to stay focused? What helps you stay on task?
Music. I'm
Words or
a
no words?
what?
Words or no words?
I have literally no preference. I'm not a big rap, country, or like really, 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 really heavy metal listener. It's just I always use the term I'm polyamorous. It depends on my mood. It depends on anything. I mean, there's some parts of book two I wrote straight classical. It was just straight classical music, and then I have sometimes I listen to songs that aren't on the playlist. It depends on my mood and just kind of what headspace I need to be in. Classical, I was played the violin and piano growing up, is probably the number one music genre that can get me to focus. So if I'm having a hard time focusing, I'll turn on classical or I'll turn on Enya. Then I'll just listen to that while I'm writing.
That's cool. That's cool. Um, I know that some people kind of say like I can't write with words because then like I'll write the words or like I'll like get into the song. Like, does that happen to you, or are you pretty good at like tuning that out?
I'm pretty good at tuning it out. The words really inspire me. I mean, I'll be listening to a song and some of the words I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so fitting for the scene. And then the song will just play on repeat as I'm writing the scene because the words themselves of the song. That's the majority of my playlists are the words of the lyrics of the songs fit the scene that I'm writing
Hmm.
or that
Cool.
I've written. Yeah.
And what gets in your way when you're writing? What is your kryptonite?
Getting distracted.
Hmm.
Um, and then becoming overly critical of myself. I will sometimes just stare, I'll start writing and then I'll go back and read, and then I just get too critical and then I kind of shut down. And so reminding myself to just write the story how I would want to read it, and I can go back and edit is a constant thing because I want to go and look for any typos and look for anything that can be reworded, and then I'll get distracted. But then also getting distracted just in general, just browsing on social media, whatever, I have a hard time, my brain will wander. And so making sure I'm focused. It has been one thing that tells me that I'm supposed to be doing this is how much focus I am able to do when I'm writing because I want to be writing. I want to be doing it. So when I'm having hard days, distraction can get in the way, but the majority of the time, I know I'm supposed to be doing this because my brain can just shut off and the words just flow.
Hmm. That's really, really beautiful, I think, actually. And distraction is so hard. I mean, I have ADHD, and so I definitely experience that too. Um, but I think that it's just so cool because I think the ADHD brains and neurodivergent brains just are able to come up with stories that those
Mhm.
who are neurotypical just, wouldn't be able to. So I think that that's like a cool kind of way to make it into a superpower.
Yeah.
And so let's go into talking about Threads of Fate. So this just,
Hmm.
it was July 1st, right?
June 1st.
June 1st. June 1st, which I should know because it's my husband's birthday as well.
That's my birthday too.
That's so funny. So if you had to describe Threads of Fate in one sentence or less, what is that sentence?
Mortal modern day woman gets trapped in the land of gods.
Short, sweet, to the point.
That's it. That's
Absolutely. There was a lot of
yeah.
tension in this book,
Yes.
which I love. I do love, some tension. So, what character did you like to write the most? What and why?
Honestly, Lahana.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she has so little time in the books, really, prospectively. She just kind of comes and goes. But as I was, this book has a lot of heavy topics. And I really just in my gut, I was like, I need a character who is just kind of like, hey guys, it's just like, it's not that serious. And just needed that brightness. And I just adore Lahana. I mean, she is, I would say, collectively the fan favorite. She is, everyone loves her. Everyone wants to be her friend. She's just so much fun to write because, you have one scene in the book, the bad guy comes. It's pretty tense. Everyone's freaking out, and Lahana's like, let's go to the bar. And everyone's like, huh? Because I feel like some people, you have those people in your life that pull you out of the darkness and pull you out of focusing on all the negative. And she was, I was like, I need someone in this book that kind of keeps everyone grounded. You're gonna find out she has a novella coming up why she is that way.
Oh,
Um, but I adore Lahana. I just loved writing her. Just love anytime, even as I'm reading book two, she has even less time in book two, just given the events of what happens in book two. But every time she comes up, I'm like, oh, I just adore this character.
and what does her name mean?
Brightness and light, or brightness and hope. I have to get my notebook,
That makes total sense with the function that you
but
just
it's like brightness and
go ahead.
something.
Is
Yeah.
it in here?
Yeah.
It's
The meaning of her name? No, I should do that though.
Yeah, that would be really cool. Because
That
then
would be cool.
because it's so important, that you're like,
Mm-hmm.
it's not just I pulled them out of no like, and this cover is absolutely stunning too. Like I know it's shiny, but like we just need to appreciate it as well. Like I
My cover
love the
artist,
signature. Like I love the O's. I don't know why. I love that.
my cover artist blew it out of the water. I thought it was gonna, because you find out in the book that Aura loves the color like burgundy, and I
Yes.
was gonna go with burgundy for the book. Um, but then I was explaining to my cover artist like there's a door and the ivy, and when she sent me that, I was like, forget the burgundy. Like this
Mm.
is just beautiful. I love it so much.
It's very Secret Garden. Like when you
Yes.
said Ivy, like that's what I thought of, like, imagining that. And I told you, like, I love France. Like I love chateaus. Like I love all that stuff. And I can just totally just imagine, I mean, I hope that it would be a little bit less wild into like going into another world. I hope that it would be a little bit easier of a transition, but I guess that it probably wouldn't be, and it would be just like how things happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so conversely, it's your favorite character to write. Who was the most difficult character to write and why?
I think it was Roan.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
think Roan was the most difficult because the majority of the book is in Aura's perspective.
Yes.
That was intentional. Um, and writing Roan, he's mysterious. He's got all these secrets, and getting glimpses of him. And I was, I really relate personally to Aura's trauma, which was easy in a sense to write, but Roan's traumas and the things he goes through, they weren't exactly something that I could relate to. And I relied heavily on my husband of like the male perspective and would someone feel this way and would you think this? And but he's a very complex character and trying to portray who he is while also he keeps a lot inside and he keeps a lot reserved in a good way was pretty difficult. It was very he was definitely the hardest character right and writing in his perspective and making people like him while also giving
Mhm.
that like mysterious edge to him as well.
Beautiful. And what was your favorite quote or scene from the book? I know that there is one that uses "so it's a fate" in it, and that would be my favorite one. I just have a lot really bad memory. But that would be mine.
My favorite, which is so funny, my favorite is actually when she first arrives and it's those first few interactions they have. He's all stern and he's in a place of essentially aristocracy. She's like, I don't give a crap who you think you are. But I still die laughing every time I read it is that kid has horns scene. That when he throws open the door again, like you're insane, it's just a city and Aura's reaction, I laugh every time. I'm like, ha, I wrote that. That's pretty funny. It's just, but I would say collectively, the first few chapters of just their dynamic of trying to figure each other out, and it's really coming across as he's in this, place of power, and she's from our world, and she's like an independent woman who's lived on her own for years. And she's like, I really don't care who you think you are. I'm going to do what I want. I just love that dynamic of those first interactions and the banter between them. It one of those like gets me giggling even though I wrote it every time I read it. And then I would say uh not to give too many spoilers, but towards the end of the book when they go to his uncle's palace
Hmm.
in Noct, that probably would surprise that scene is the scene that makes me cry every single time I'm reading it or editing it. That moment is just like gets me every time, gets me right in the heart, just the interactions between those two.
I love it. I do. And so sometimes when we write characters, we, imagine them with certain traits and to look a certain way. Is there anybody that exists in like the modeling acting world that you imagine as your main characters or anybody that, your team has kind of fan casted?
I've really struggled with that because I've been asked that a couple of times. Um, I can't think of names. There's one actor he's in Wheel of Time. He comes in as like a side character of like the gypsy characters in Wheel of Time. He's pretty close to how I imagine Jessiel. I don't know what his name is. He was also in a movie with see, I can't think of her name. It was that movie that came out with the older woman with the younger guy, and it was like a big deal because she had like a nude scene. I can't remember the name.
Anne Hathaway?
I can see his face, but not Anne Hathaway. No,
The
it's the
guy?
woman. No, it's not that movie. It came out like last year. The woman's
Okay.
like in her like 60s or something. And the guy's like in his 20s. But the guy in that movie, I cannot think of his name. It's gonna drive me insane. But he's also in A Wheel of Time when they're walking with like the gypsy caravans, and he's like the leader's grandson. He's pretty close to how I imagine Jasiel. I cannot fan cast Aura and Lahana for the life of me. I haven't found anyone. And then recently, there was a reel that went viral where people were fan casting this guy as Razand or Zayden from Fourth Wing.
Yep.
Have you seen it?
Is it the guy who always does like
He
the
no,
and stuff or no?
he's on a red carpet. It's like some type of model guy. I wish I don't I'd have to go. I was so crazy. I literally compared my character art to this guy. I don't know his name. He's got a big following. He's some model. He is who I would cast as Roan. Like
Well,
lighten the guy's hair a little bit. Perfect. I think he's maybe just stepping into acting. But there was a reel that went viral because someone stitched it or like reposted it with like, is this Rezand or like Zayden? And I was, oh no, that's Roan. I don't know about these guys. That's Roan. And I shared it in my Discord, and everyone was like, oh my gosh. So I did a side by side. Don't know his name, but I've really struggled with the fan casting. But I will say the one fan casting I can confidently do is in book 2 is Roan's father. Um, and I just forgot his name. He have to look it up. I can't remember his name. He is, you're gonna know him once I say it, and this is just gonna drive me nuts. Lee Pace.
Lovely Pace.
Lee Pace, Roan's dad. Like, that's the one I can confidently say, like, that's who I imagine when I am writing the king. It is Lee Pace. So
I love this. And I ask these questions, like, I mean, people are interested in them, but I also like to go back and reread and imagine like characters. Like I know I can do character art and whatever, but I just like seeing people because I like listening to how they speak. I like listening to like seeing their mannerisms, like so that kind of stuff, like that kind of drives that question. So okay, we're gonna go to the last part of the interview, which is just some fun questions and fun stuff. So other than reading and writing, what are some things that you enjoy doing in your free time?
most of the time, I hang out with my kids and my husband. I love to bake. I used to actually work professionally in a bakery until I realized I wanted to enjoy baking and did not want to do that professionally. Um, Something that most people, unless you're close to me, don't realize, I'm a big adrenaline roller coaster person, like amusement parks. And so I love roller coasters. My trips growing up, my dad's huge roller coaster enthusiast. Our trips were centered around amusement parks. So I will, there's a few rides I won't go on, but I will like almost never say no to a roller coaster. Love them, love the thrill of them, love the higher, the faster they go. Love it. And my kids are turning out that way too. So it's very fun going on amusement park trips with my kids.
Have you been to Cedar
Um, have I what?
Been to Cedar Point? I've always wanted to go there.
Oh my gosh. See, that was what kickstarted it all with my dad with Cedar Point, Top Thrill Dragster. I always call it Millennium Force, but that's not it because I get it mixed up. Millennial Force. Amazing. I've been on King Ka in New Jersey. That's amazing. I love roller coasters. Love them so much. They're so much fun. My husband hates them, so I'm like getting my kids to go on them with me. And then we're big movie watchers at our house because my husband's film and theater is his thing. So most of the time, really though, it's just spending time with my kids. It's just soaking in the time with them as I can and just doing whatever we can to just get on one good time together.
That's awesome. And so this is my favorite question of the entire interview, so I'm gonna get my Goodreads page out. Who are some authors or books that you would recommend?
Ooh, I love Carissa Broadbent.
Love her. Have read all.
Love,
I
love.
wait, I'm gonna actually check. Like I requested the new one on
Well,
NetGalley.
like song of uh
Yes.
I see I've been in such a reading slump. It's been weird. I binged read all year last year, and this year I've read 3 books because I've been so caught up in all the book stuff. But love Carissa Broadbent. I love Jennifer L. Armentrout.
Yes.
Love her.
Did you read
Um, what?
did you read Lux, the Lux series?
Not yet.
Oh, that was like her first series that like I was like turned on to like a long time ago before she even wrote like and I like read the Covenant. I read that one. I read like half of From Blood and Ash. I haven't finished it, but she even publishes under J. Lynn.
Yes,
Or
I knew that.
so I met her at like BookCon like a couple years ago or a few years ago now. So I love her, you know, and I'm like, people need to read more. Lux has like an alien, it's like an alien
Hmm.
thing. It's pretty cool.
Okay. Yeah, and then I would say I would highly recommend my wonderful indie author friends, K.M. Davidson, Courtney
Yes.
L. Wynn, Amber Toro, Lindsay Roden,
What's the third one?
um, Amber Toro. She does like sci-fi.
I don't know if I've read hers.
The
Oh, the Umber book.
mhm,
I've heard of that one. It's on my list. But I've read and I have Darkness Comes Again. I have Tether Through the Rift. I interviewed her. And then and then
Courtney L. Wynn.
when loved Vessalus, like so happy that it's being published. It's being published traditionally.
Mhm.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yep.
Awesome, awesome.
So as to, I mean, and there's obviously you've got like Sarah J. Maas, but like everyone recommends. But yeah, those off the top of my head. Off the top of my head, I have so many books. I'd have to like look at all my favorite authors. But off the top of my head,
Such
those
good
are there.
recommendations. Such good
Mhm.
recommendations. If you had to give some advice to an aspiring author or a younger you, what would you say to that person?
For an aspiring author, I would say just keep going.
Hmm.
Even if you literally only write a paragraph a day and then one day you write like 10,000 words because you just get focused, don't compare the two because you're doing something every day to it and not one author's journey is the same, right? Like me, I didn't want to be an author until a year ago today, and then I have people I know like my husband and friends that I have who've wanted to do it their entire life. Don't compare your journey and when you decide you want to do this to anyone else because it's your own journey and things will work out as they're supposed to. I don't know if I can answer the second question because it would make me a little bit emotional. I think it would just be just keep going. It's making me emotional.
Mm-hmm.
Younger self, it would be just keep going because it's hard. And so life is hard. And this is to anyone who's just really struggling in the darkness and you look at my character's background and you feel like everything's just falling apart and you can't control your circumstances. It gets better. And it may be years and it may be a lot of heartache and a lot of uncertainty, but there is light at the end of the tunnel, even if that tunnel's really long. It just keep going because life will work out the way it's supposed to. And you have the strength, even if it's just slivers at a time.
The mental health rep was one of the reasons that I really, really liked this book because I'm a
Mm-hmm.
counselor in my full time, and that means a lot to me, especially accurate representation of mental health. Um, and so that was like one of the big reasons I kind of picked up the book is because it had mental health rep in it, and I think it was done well, and I think it's really special that you're able to kind of reflect and say that now, and having a book and going on to book two and writing another one, like that's really, really great.
Yeah, the mental health that was the big driving thing for me with this book was I've read fantasy my whole life and I always felt like fantasy will bring up topics but just kind of like, oh, she was feeling blue and let's take, very famous moment in Twilight. You just get a bunch of blank pages with the months. But it's not, and while that's true, time goes by. I was like, I want to write someone who really struggles. And that was one of the reasons why Aura came from our world. It's because she's coming from a world now in modern day who talks more about mental health and voices those things. And she's struggling with it. It's not under this fantasy veil of, oh, she's just feeling a little blue today. It's like, no, I'm really struggling and I can't get out of bed. And it's realistic of someone going through those moments.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Um, but yeah, I'm really, really glad that you wrote, this into the fantasy as well. Um, and we kind of talked about music a little bit, so we'll skip over that question. Do you have any spaces or areas that, other than obviously the beginning is in France, that inspired your world, like when you were creating it? Like, is there anywhere you've been or that you want to go?
I would say France is just like the biggest inspiration. We went there 2 years ago. I've been obsessed with it since I was like 14. And so there was very specific places. We were there. The Loire Valley is just gorgeous, and that inspired a lot of not, I mean, like the city, if in when they go to the pub in Aluna, it is inspired by a courtyard in Tours, France, is I saw that courtyard again. We went to a pub there. It was heavily inspired by that trip. So a lot of Comus and a lot of Noct specifically is inspired by France. I've taken inspiration as I gotten further in other fantasy stories. Game of Thrones is a very big inspiration to me. That world is just beautiful. But a majority of it is inspired by France and Europe. I've been to Scotland and England and Ireland as a lot of inspiration as well.
Awesome. Awesome. And my final question is, do you have any upcoming signings or events or places that we can meet you at?
I will be at Readers of the Valley in January in Glendale, Arizona. I will also be at the Villains and Vixens in Dallas, Texas in September of 2025. There will be a local signing where near me when book 2 comes out at Second Charles in Utah. They want to have me come back to there for my second book, and then there'll probably be local signings. I just have not gotten through to it, but Villains and Vixens and Readers of the Valley are the 2 confirmed, and I've got a few more that I've like applied for.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
That's so exciting. And is there a timeline that you have for book 2?
December 1st.
What is it?
December 1st. I have.
First.
Yeah, I have. It's approved, but like I have.
Oh, awesome.
So it's not the cover. I just made this in Canva, but like physical book exists. Like a little quote from the book. So December 1st.
This is thick as this one. This one's almost 500 pages.
Yeah, this is literally that one. I think is 478.
Mm-hmm.
This is 479.
Oh wow! Oh
yeah.
I love this.
So this one will be a few more pages because there will also be character art in it. Like this doesn't have the map. It doesn't have the character art. I haven't commissioned it yet. And I'm still editing it. So it'll probably be, I'm guessing, about 485, 490 as it comes out.
Oh, that's so exciting.
Yeah,
that is so exciting. I can't wait for the next book to come out. I need to know what happens.
Yeah.
And, you know, so I think that that's also like a plus of indie publishing is that you can publish on whatever timeline you want.
Mm-hmm.
So you can put 2 books out in 6 months. So that's great.
Yep.
But thank you so much for taking time to chat with me today. I'm so happy that I was able to find this book, find you. You know, book talk and Bookstagram has really changed my life. You know, I discovered indie publishing and it's something that I love. So I'm just so happy to get to share, you know, everybody's stories and books. And I can't wait for book 2.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited. ARCs will open soon for this too. Just so people know, I will be opening ARCs soon. And I'm just excited to see where we go with this story. And thank you so much for having me and for loving the book. It really changes my life when people tell me that they love the book. I mean, I get emotional every time someone tells me. So
well, I'm really happy to give you that positive feedback that please keep, like you said, please keep going, push through it, even when it's hard. And I hope that we'll talk soon.
Great. Thank you so much. You have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.